to Good Morning Nigeria Live on the network service of the NTA, and to begin our conversation this morning, which borders on the second anniversary of the 10th National Assembly. Let's quickly take a look at this background report put together by our correspondent Oyeyemi Ajayi.
The role of the legislature, the second tier of government, cannot be underrated, especially as it affects the citizens. They represent the voices of the people, from their constituencies being the nucleus of their origin and the country at large. The 10th National Assembly is not in any way different in these roles and responsibilities, as many adjudged them up and doing in their legislative activities. Since their inauguration on the 13th June 2013, the leadership of the National Assembly have emphasized that they remain committed to positioning Nigeria for notable regional, sub-regional, and global leadership roles, while adopting a strategic partnership approach to build resilient synergy with other arms of government and foster a functional and viable federation. The 10th National Assembly of Nigeria is a bicameral legislature. The Senate so far introduced 844 bills in the last 2 years. 96 bills passed, 52 bills received presidential assent, while the House of Representatives introduced 2,263 bills at midterm. 186 passed and 51 bills received presidential assents. Now, with this, can we say that the National Assembly has done well? What more should they concentrate on for national growth and development? Our guests, already seated in the studio, will be doing justice to these questions and more.
All right, many thanks, Oyeyemi Ajayi, for that background report. And to begin our conversation, let me begin by introducing distinguished Senator Titus Zam, Chairman, Senate Committee on North Central Development Commission, and immediate past Chairman, Senate Committee on Rules and Business. He represents the Benue Northwest Senatorial District.
Thank you.
Distinguished, a pleasure to welcome you to Good Morning Nigeria.
Thank you so much.
Let me also introduce Representative Ejirogene Francis Waive, Chairman of the House of Representatives Committee on Rules and Business and member representing Ughelli North and South, Udu Federal Constituency in Delta State. Thank you very much for coming.
Thank you, except that you didn't say the good people of...
The good people. Who represents the bad people?
All right, we have another guest, a very good guest who is a regular on Good Morning Nigeria. But this time, he joins us via Zoom, Dr. Abdurrahman Abu Hamisu, political scientist and public affairs analyst. Many thanks for joining us, Doctor.
Thank you for having me. Good morning, Nigerians.
All right, so let's begin from here in the studio. And yesterday was June 12th, and the president had to be there at the National Assembly to address a joint session. Senator Zam, let's begin by assessing the president's visit, his address, and the camaraderie, of course, which most of us watched on TV.
Well, Mr. President did very well yesterday by choosing to speak to the Nigerian public through their representatives in the National Assembly. You know that the National Assembly is the basin of democracy. It's the hallmark. It's the headquarters of democracy, because it's the only tier of government that is populated essentially 100% by elected representatives. So if the president actually wanted to talk to Nigerians, he was in the right place. Because if he sat in a villa and did the address on such an auspicious occasion, it may not have had the impact that a visit to the National Assembly had. Because from our reactions, from our interaction, which you qualified as camaraderie, spoke to the fact that Mr. President addressed the issues that are germane, that are relevant to the wishes, thinking, and aspirations of Nigerians. So that visit was perfect. It was correct, and it was in the right place.
And the icing on the cake was to corner the president and try to get it to become an annual ritual.
Yes, yes, and I think you are right, because we felt that as the People's Parliament, each time he wanted to talk to the people, since it's not possible for him to deal with every Nigerian, over 200 million people on one-on-one basis, the National Assembly is the most appropriate place for such an engagement. So we requested that he should formalize, he should institutionalize it, so that each time he needs to deal with the Nigerian public, he should come to the National Assembly.
All right, many thanks, Senator. Representative Uwaive, you were also there. Of course, we saw you in your full regalia as a proud Yoruba, and it was great, like the Senator has said. But some Nigerians, feel indifferent because they're used to the routine of having to tune in at 7 a.m., hear the president speak and all of that. But let's look at the content of what the president, actually said yesterday at the National Assembly. As a Nigerian, as a good Nigerian, would you say that the president spoke to the issues, that needs attention at this point in time?
Yeah, he definitely did, and he did in a very good way, with a lot of humor and with a lot of logic. This is the second time of coming to the National Assembly on June 12th. And I think it's a good practice, and it's nice that we cashed in on it to ask him to make it an annual routine, just like the State of the Union address by U.S. presidents. He touched on every issue. Last year, it was the national anthem, and this year, the national honors was there. That's what captured most attention. But if you listen to the speech, he addressed issues of partisan politics, he addressed issues of the economy, issues of security. There's no aspect he didn't talk about, even the reforms that he has initiated, the regulation in the foreign exchange market and the removal of fuel subsidy. He addressed all of that and talked about the hope for tomorrow and how that gradually the economy is coming to equilibrium. Prices are higher than they were, but people are, stability is coming. He talked about inflation coming down and the exchange rate of the naira beginning to be stable, unlike previously, where if you buy $1 for X amount, tomorrow morning you don't know what you buy it for. But now we all know it's somewhere between around 1,600 or less, or 1.5 thereabouts. So there's that stability that is coming to the economy. He addressed that. And then he also gave hope to the common man that tomorrow will be better. It was a good speech, and even across party lines, it was nice. The humor with which he addressed the fears of the one-party state. And then he put Nigeria's mind to rest in that respect. And like he said, you can't force people not to jump out of a bailing ship, of a ship that is going down. But it was a good speech generally. And look at the national honors, well spread across the length and breadth of the country. I particularly took note of that. And of course, a representative of my people, I was interested in people from my area who were on that list. People like Frank Kokori, people like Alex Ibru, people like Alfred Rewane, and I was excited. And then as a clergyman, when I heard Bishop Kuku, I had to get up and Matthew Kuka. I got up and gave him the applause. So it was well balanced. Some people you would think he would never mention, like Femi Falana and a few others. And then look at the Ogoni Nine. That was good. That was good.
You didn't mention Professor Hoveri.
Oh, that's our leader. Thank you for bringing me that so that Prof sits. I have the privilege of sitting there, Prof, every day.
Sometimes people don't know Professor Hoveri beyond, now he's in the House of Representatives, but he has a history.
Yes. He was in exile with Mr. President, stayed together in the same flat during the
I know
time
he's a well-respected political scientist.
Oh, sure.
Yeah, from my training, during my undergraduate days when I went to Bello University, my lecturer would cite Julius Ohembere about Nigerian politics and economy. And when I met him in the National Assembly during our orientation at the International Conference Center, I had to walk to him and introduce myself to him. Yes, sir, I'm one of your students. Yes, quite a respected scholar. Yeah.
When I first won election here,
Yeah.
and I mentioned to somebody that Professor Julius was my colleague,
Yeah.
he said, clean your mouth.
Many people don't know that aspect of his background.
Yeah. Anyway, let's get in Dr. Abdurrahman Abu Hamisu. Maybe for a moment you could also have a go at what happened at the National Assembly yesterday. What's your assessment?
Well, it's a good thing that the president took his time to visit the National Assembly yesterday as a way of commemorating June 12th, which has become Democracy Day, and to have the nation addressed through that medium in the midst of the lawmakers that are the representatives of the people. It's a good thing that he did that, and that he was able to touch on those issues that he feel are germane and fundamental going forward as we grapple with the challenges of our nation, Nigeria. Beyond that is just a ritual. It's just what it is an appearance. The speeches have been given. Now it is time for Nigerians to react. I think that is exactly what is happening. But I bet you a lot of Nigerians won't be able to watch that very particular interaction yesterday for obvious reasons. One of those reasons is lack of power supply, which has become a daily occurrence in Nigeria. It is unfortunate that even at this point in time, we're still grappling with issues around power supply. The second, which is the first, is the economy, because when the economy eases and the people find their life a little bit comfortable, they can indulge in some luxuries. A story was told of Mao Zedong in China, where a cabinet minister came to the chairman and to say that the masses are ungrateful, that despite all they are doing to reposition China, they are not being appreciated, that he had some peasants complaining that the Communist Party was not doing enough. Mao Zedong never said anything. The next morning, he assembled all the cabinet ministers and he took them to a state-owned farm. And there, they worked throughout the day until it was 4 o'clock. And he asked all of them present, what happened in China today? They said, leader, how can we know? Because we're on the field, working on the farm. He said, okay, because one of the complaints was that the peasant could equally pick up the newspaper, listen to radio, and watch television to know what government is doing. And the Mao want to pass a message that the masses are too busy on the field, to the extent that they're aching out a living from the farmland. They don't have luxury of time, which means that watching television, listening to the radio, and then reading newspapers are luxuries that come with ease. So if the economy eases and people find life to be a little bit comfortable, people can really relax and listen to news and watch entertainments and so on and so forth. So for me, beyond the speeches, Nigerians will want to see more of actions.
Comments. Let's get back to the topic for conversation today, which is, of course, is the second anniversary of the 10th National Assembly. I'd like to get back to you, Senator. You're a part of the 10th National Assembly.
Yes.
In your own view, how would you say that the 10th National Assembly has fared in the past 2 years?
Well, as an active participant in the National Assembly, if I'm to assess myself, naturally, I will score the National Assembly very high. This is, with the statistics available, it's no longer a guesswork. We're dealing with facts and figures that speak to the quality of performance. Ours is basically a lawmaking assembly. And so when you assess on the basis of how many bills, motions have been addressed, have been presented, then you would agree that the National Assembly, both the green chambers and the red chambers, have done excellently well. And I think Nigerians are happy about that.
When you say excellently well, could you, put your fingers on some of the bills that you think will change the lives of Nigerians?
Yes. Let me take, for example, the regional development commissions, which I am privileged to head one of them, the North Central Development Commission. That is a watershed in the developmental aspirations of this country. The development commissions are special purpose vehicles, that are established by President Tinubu to address the unique developmental challenges of the various regions in this country. I am from North Central Nigeria. Our own developmental challenges may not be the same with somebody from the Niger Delta. So if you sit in Abuja, for example, and make a policy, without taking into consideration our unique conditions, you may not be helping the situation. So one of the greatest achievements of the Tinubu administration is the creation of, these regional development commissions as passed by the National Assemblies. So that is one of them. What about the tax reform bills, which has
not been signed anyway?
Yeah, but it's on the president's table. We have done our job. The two chambers have passed it. So when that comes on stream too, it will also streamline tax administration in this country. And then the students' loan fund, which is novel, which this administration, working in terms of National Assembly, have brought about, would also address the issue of indigent students who cannot ordinarily afford to pay certain fees in their own schools, And so President Tinubu, working with the National Assembly, has done so well. And I think the National Assembly needs a kudos in this regard.
All right.
That's just some of those things that I can really...
Even though the kudos may not come from this studio, really. But the Senate, if I remember correctly, claims 52 bills signed by the president. The House claims
844 legislations, addressed. 52
signed
into law.
And the House
that is proportionate to our number of 103. So don't liken us to what's happening.
No problem. Even the House claimed less, 51. And I was surprised because it's a bicameral legislature.
No, the House is...
why the Senate have 52 and the House has 51 signed into law. Yeah. But I know that of all of those, of course, it's also the national anthem bill signed into law, passed in record time at the House of Representatives. Yeah. It's also part of what Nigerians say, who does that? But it's a part of the credits that the House of Reps will take.
Well, if you listen again and again, I was in primary school when we were singing Nigeria We Hail Thee, and then it was later changed to Arise, O Compatriots. If you listen to the wordings here, this really registers. It really creates a great sense of patriotism and a vision for the country. But beyond that, you'll find that when people say that you pass legislations with the speed of light, it depends on the subject matter. If you are going to deal with the budget, for instance, that would definitely take you several weeks. But if you are just looking at some lines of words for a national anthem, especially when you're not crafting a new one, you're not reinventing the wheel, why will you do that for several weeks? You even take the minimum wage, for instance. When Labour and the government has agreed at 70,000 naira, so why would we want to keep that for several months, dragging and waiting for implementation? An agreement has already been reached. All you need to do is get the old law and change where you had, what was it, 32 and put 70, and you move on. So, and we did that in the interest of the Nigerian people, so that the bill became available for Mr. President on time, and implementation can start on time. But generally, the legislature all over the world are not the darling of the people, because we do the job of oversight. And I was in banking, and anytime people from the internal control unit visit your branch as a manager, you don't like them because they seem to have a responsibility to find a fault. They must find one, or else they didn't come. Or you didn't get this customer's signature is not regular in all the forms. that can be an issue. And you as a branch manager become, what was that? But they must write a report. So that's the kind of thing the National Assembly does, oversighting the ministries, departments, and agencies of government. So people will normally want to be antagonistic, And then in a climb where we are more familiar with military rule, like somebody was saying that what we are familiar with is the president speaking on Independence Day on television, on Democracy Day on television. But what is happening now that President Tinubu has done is the democratic thing to do. He's more familiar with democratic rule, So, but as we go on, changes continue to occur. Our people will get used to this system of government. If you see young children who never experienced military rule, they will be rejoicing over when they hear things happen in some places. But for us I was president of Students' Union during the military rule when I was in university, I know what we went through. I would never pray for that kind of thing to happen again. It's really a sad thing. And we have moved on as a country. We are not yet there where we should be, but we're no longer where we used to be.
Fantastic. Yeah. Many thanks, Representative Waive. Let's get to Dr. Hamisu now. Listening to the two members of the National Assembly speak, of course, you don't expect anything less from them. But you are a Nigerian watching the National Assembly from outside. In your own view, some critics will say that the 10th National Assembly has been overly submissive to the executive and hence has not been able to exercise its role effectively. But what's your take in review 2 years down the line? What's your take on the 10th National Assembly?
Well, the popular understanding anywhere in the world is where you have two persons that are supposed to disagree over a cup of tea or coffee, and then you now find that they are both silent. It means either there is conspiracy or that the going is good. Again, it is not when the legislature fight the executive that we know that they are doing their job. No. But there are parameters of assessing what legislatures all over the world do, which is fundamentally missing to some reasonable extent in Nigeria. Now, the job of the National Assembly is cut into two. Removing all the explanations and the verbals and everything that goes into the explanation is just two: lawmaking and then oversight function. The problem with Nigeria is not lawmaking. The problem with Nigeria is oversight function. We have an abandoned project that ought to impact the lives of the people scattered all over this country, and which is expected, as usual, that the National Assembly will take this up by asking critical questions. And that is where the fight usually comes in, especially when critical questions are being asked. For instance, we're supposed to dualize the road that is linking, say, the east-west road that took almost eternity to complete. There are supposed to be questions. And if these questions are being asked by National Assembly, the gale of corruption and the abuse of public office would have reduced drastically. And for the fact that people have this sense of impunity, that is why over the years, I'm not talking about this National Assembly, like something that has been happening since 1999, it takes whistleblowers to expose scams such as Ali Burton, such as Siemens, and down to this very particular administration. So critically, Nigerians believe that the National Assembly has not done much in terms of the welfare of the people, asking questions. I don't equally blame the National Assembly. I even blame the framers of the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, where the Chapter 2 of the Constitution that talks about the economic right of the people is made redundant. I may choose as a president to pursue the welfare of the people or not, and I cannot go to court as a citizen because it's not justiciable. So from that very particular perspective, when you tie it to what is happening in Nigeria, where everybody, almost everybody in power, is after their own interest or their group interest before the persons come to understand the reason why most of the institutions of governments are not working. especially the National Assembly that's supposed to be the conscience of the polity, in the conscience of the economy, the conscience of our moral and social lives in this country.
All right, many thanks, Doctor. But, I'd like to remain with you. You said the laws are not really the issues, but some people have said that they have not, the 10th National Assembly has not focused on the critical issues like agriculture, food security, sufficiently, which are the main issues, the Nigerians, of course, will want to be handled. So speak about that, really, the laws that has been made so far. Do you think that they have focused on the main issues, bedeviling the country at the moment?
You see, I don't want to dwell on the laws that have been made so far. Laws are made, laws are broken, and there are always a sort of discrepancy between pronouncements, between what is on paper and the real action that is taking place. If we are really a very serious people and a serious nation that want development, the choices are just simple. It's either we want to salvage the nation and keep and fight with our friends, or we keep our friends and compromise the nation. And in Nigeria, what we normally do is choose our friends and compromise the nation. If not, I'm expecting that by now, a lot of questions, and as I talked about the oversight function of the National Assembly, I see no reason why laws will be made, monies will be made available to some sectors and subsectors. We are not seeing any improvement, and then we're not asking questions. For instance, we talked about, the last time I was at the studio, that was 2 days ago, we talked about the railway master plan that is due for review this very particular year. And everything about railway has been stopped. And this is one subsector that will have tremendous and significant impact on the lives of the people, because it will cheapen transportation of goods, people, and services across the nation. Nothing is being done about that. Like the issue of the agriculture that you mentioned, the issue of farmers-herders conflict that has taken a toll on that very particular sector. Is it bandits or kidnappers that are holding to ransom the areas that are feeding this nation? Those areas critically, especially the Middle Belt. The Middle Belt is one zone that combine the features of the South and the North. So it's a transition zone, and it's the food basket of the nation, especially Benue Plateau. Taraba is there up to the northeast. Now, bandits have taken over. Zamfara, bandits have taken over. And every day, we are making pronouncement, we are making more monies available to the people. And by the time we can no longer farm in these areas, the food inflation will be massive. Unemployment will become so huge to the extent that we have more people going into banditry than going into farming. And what will happen? We'll continue to open our borders to foreign goods that will equally undermine the people's livelihood, which is farming. Then the third impact of that will be that we will need more foreign exchange in order to buy from this country. So you cannot rule out what is happening in agricultural sector with the food inflation that we're having now and the hunger protest that is happening across the land. Infrastructure is a key component. I said it the last time. I wish what is being done around the Calabar-Lagos coastal road that is being built could be replicated around the nation, cutting across the 6 geopolitical zones, because this is how you open the economic arteries of nations. So all we want is not about democracy supporting a very few, the very few that are on top of the pyramid that are representing us. Of course, if you ask a local government chairman whether democracy is the best form of government, he will tell you it's the best form of government, because democracy has elevated him, it has given him a official car, it has given him a security vote. Also, if you ask every senator, every House of Reps member, what they will tell you there is that there is a call for celebration, because what they are doing is not on part-time basis. They are earning more And when you talk to some of them, they will tell you, I was doing well before I was elected. Please, next time, don't contest the election. Go and do well the way other Nigerians are doing well. So Nigeria is for all of us. Democracy must support everybody. Insecurity must be addressed. Infrastructure should be addressed. Issues around education should be addressed. Because, for instance, a country like Tanzania is building bridges that we used to give to Julius Berger in this country, and we praise Julius Berger as if they are doing us a favor. All we are saying is democracy should be about peace and development. As it is now, democracy has not given us peace and development as we're told on the pages of journals and textbooks.
Hamisu, thank you very much. I mean, someone somewhere could say, but these are legislators, they are not the executive. But I think you've been able to, link it how legislative work could bring about development. And the camaraderie that exists between the 10th National Assembly and the executive is also something. I don't think the president has turned down anything that the National Assembly has thrown at it. Yeah. So it behoves the National Assembly to put things forward, and then let's take it from there. But he's also talked about the relationship. Yeah. He's not alone. A lot of people talk about the relationship between the legislature and the executive. Yeah. And I'm going to ask you, Senator Zam, is this 10th National Assembly independent? Is it collaborative or is it compliant? What is the character of the 10th National Assembly?
It is collaborative. Let me...
it's not independent.
How can... We are a separate tier of government.
Well, you chose one.
Listen, we are one, but we don't need to be fighting the executive to impress people, critics out there, to show that we are working independent of the executive. Remember, we are in one government. This is the government of President Ahmed Bola Tinubu. And democratic leadership, be it in the executive or the legislature, is a journey. It's not a destination. You take step 1, step 2, step 3 before you get to the destination. Destination here is socio-economic well-being of Nigerians. This government is just 2 years old. You don't expect us to arrive at our destination. So far, the steps this administration has taken, both the executive and legislature, point to the fact that they are aware of where they are going. Prof mentioned the issue of insecurity, and I'm really surprised that he did not find it convenient to commend the National Assembly for all the steps we have taken. We have invited the service chiefs, not once, not twice, to come and brief us as to what they are doing to stem the tide of insecurity that has enveloped most parts of this country, especially where I come from, Benue State. I have presented motions, bills to this effect. I even sponsored a bill that is, in the process of being enacted into law, which is open grazing prohibition and ranches establishment bill. As I speak to you, the Senate has set up a committee to organize a national security summit so that we will sit down on the round table with every stakeholder in the Nigerian project to deal with this issue. So you are correct when you say we are not the executive branch of government that does the day-to-day running of this country. Ours is to make laws, oversight, and see how we can collaborate with the executive to see to it that these laws are implemented. It's not directly our responsibility to go out and construct bridges. We can only do that by way of budgeting. When Mr. President or the executive brings their budget to the National Assembly, we look at this budget, fine-tune it, and give it back to him as a law. So we are doing very well in every respect. I think there is this mindset about Nigerians that the National Assembly must be seen fighting. That is a misconception. And I don't think it is right for this country to toe that part. Time was when the National Assembly was boxing the executive every now and then. And people thought that is the right way to go. You can achieve more by lobbying. You can achieve more by engaging. You can achieve more by collaborating. than to play to the gallery, bang the tables, shout in the chambers. We have done very well. At least I mentioned some of the milestones of the 10th National Assembly.
And I agree with you.
So for us, engagement, collaboration is the road to success instead of fighting and appearing on televisions, going to the constituencies and inciting the people against the president.
But I don't think anybody has said that. Dr. Abdurrahman Abu Hamisu himself did say that you don't have to fight to get things done. And I also said that. Nobody here has said you have to fight. We don't want you to fight so that you get things going. But Representative, just a moment here, please. Representative Waive, as chairman of the House Committee on Rules and Business, what mechanisms would you say are in place to ensure that bills and motions reflect national interests rather than partisan interests? Because that's where many Nigerians find, a problem.
Yeah, you find that many of the bills that come in from members is usually originated from their own relationship with their constituents, what their constituents desire. And then the House also has a legislative agenda, which every bill or motion must fall in line with somehow. And when you look at all of that, you find that many of these things are the way people want them. If you look at the establishment bills that people complain about, you find that no legislator just wants to do that. If I, for instance, have had a federal medical center established in my constituency, which has just happened, the pressure will be on my neighboring constituency. What are you doing? They just got a federal medical center. So I'm trying to say that those bills reflect the push from the Nigerian people. And these bills only become laws to be executed. They do not become immediately a meal on the table. Because what government ends up doing is providing an atmosphere where people can live in peace, where businesses can thrive. That's what government does. And not to come to your house and provide you breakfast and serve you lunch and all of that. The energy, for instance, in the House of Representatives, this 10th House of Representatives, over 2,000 bills in 2 years, will tell you that people are not sleeping. They are thinking, they are working, and they're looking at how life can be better for their people.
All right. If you say that the members of the National Assembly are not sleeping, they're working, and the energy is, intense as it should be, would you say that they are working on their own? Would you say that they are engaging with the citizens enough? I ask that because, in the last 2 years, we've seen all kinds of protests from the citizens that these members of the National Assembly represent. So would you say they have engaged enough?
All kinds of
protests. I don't want to call the names, of course you know them. So speak to us about the engagement of the National Assembly with the citizens that they represent. And then, if the National Assembly has been up and doing, tell us some of the steps it has taken to ensure accountability and transparency of governance.
The members of parliament are the closest to the people. And that's why the pressure is always on us, because we are the people who are always meeting constituents. We are the people they can reach. Even for things that the executive should do, the constituent will ask you to do them because they know that they can reach you, are the one they can talk to. So those protests cannot be ruled out. One, there are people who want to take your seat, who want to contest. They will do everything to validate their ambition, which they have a constitutional right to do. And then there are professional critics who would criticize ice cream for being too cold or for being too sweet. So those are usually part of democracy. In a military dictatorship, for instance, you won't be allowed to do those kind of things. So generally, the things we have brought up to the fore are from the people. If you want to say that because there are protests, in some cases, it means that we are not doing our job. No, that even shows that we are doing our job and that people want more. Oliver Twist would always ask for more. So they would ask for more, and we will continue to do our best for our people. The legislature is that arm of government that suffers most whenever there's an interruption. And so in these 26 years, it's beginning to grow, mature, learn the ropes, and I'm glad that 26 years has been unbroken. We are doing well.
Let me interject here to say that there are this maxim that the cure for the ease of democracy is more democracy. These pockets of protest that you see here and there are reflective of the fact that democracy has come to stay, and the Nigerian populace have begun to understand that they have certain basic rights that must be addressed. And some people are also taking advantage of the fact that the longevity of democracy has given them all windows to air their views, state their cases, and to make themselves heard. So you will see more of this protest as Nigeria practices democracy. It's not so much about the quality of service. It's about people enjoying their freedom of expression, and it speaks to the quality of leadership that we have. President Tinubu is a very tolerant Democrat, and some Nigerians know his history, and so they now want to give him what he used to give other administrations. You know, he stayed more in the opposition, you understand? And now that he's in charge, whatever he does naturally attracts extraordinary attention.
Okay.
But the good thing about it is that, given his own pedigree as a core Democrat, he responds to some of these things stylishly and in a manner that you not even know that certain steps have been taken. And that is why he's enjoying the kind of acceptance and popularity that he's enjoying from every corner of this country, which manifests in terms of people leaving their own political parties, coming to join him.
Let's talk about transparency of the National Assembly. What is being done? A lot of people say that the National Assembly is almost like a closed book. It belongs to the people, right?
Yes.
And the people are supposed to see more clearly what goes on in the National Assembly, whether it's in terms of pay, whether it's in terms of laws, whether it's in terms of oversight. How transparent is this 10th National Assembly?
The National Assembly is the only institution whose sittings are monitored live by the press. Cameras are focused on every member of the National Assembly. If you doze up, Nigerians will see.
Are there executive sessions?
Executive sessions come only once in a long while, depending on the subject matter. Some issues are out of national interest. You know, Yorubas have a saying that not all clothes can be displayed in the open. Issues that border on national security or national interest can never be addressed in open plenary. Yet, those instances or executive sessions are very rare. So, when you talk about transparency, I really don't understand, because we don't control any particular votes, you know, other than our own salaries
and allowances.
And allowances. That's the secret. You go to the Department of Finance and you get these things on the table.
All right. Thank you, many thanks, Senator. Thank you, Senator Zam.
Is there anything that you think is being hidden somewhere? Please tell us.
Okay.
Fact,
My brother, is there anything that happened we don't know?
If you ask, since you are asking me, I will say it is hidden in the executive session.
The House of Representatives is now doing what we call the open week. In fact, in July, we'll be doing another one, where every committee has a stand and you can ask any question. And you get answers. There's a public session. In fact, the budget sessions these days, Mr. Speaker has done it in such a way that there's a general public defense, as it were, where any member of the public can ask questions other than the committee defense that has been the practice. This 10th National Assembly is getting more open even than any other in our history.
Okay, thank you very much. Just to let you know to our viewers that you can send us messages, comments, questions, you know, on the number displayed on the screen. You can send either SMS or WhatsApp messages. I'd like to get to Dr. Hamisu now. You know, talking about the 10th National Assembly, we cannot talk about, we must talk about the scandals and controversies, you know, that the National Assembly has been brought with. Of course, you want to talk about budget padding, you want to talk about the scandals and all of that, and, you know, confrontations, you know, between members. As a Nigerian watching the 10th National Assembly, what's your view about all of this?
Well, let me say that the 10th National Assembly is is able to manage its internal crisis. In as much as it is good for their public image, it is not good for us. It is not good for us because the essence of democracy is to disagree. It's about different shades of opinion, 1,000 views. And so for any institution that does not allow internal dissident, that does not allow internal disagreement, such institution honestly is dangerous to the continuous existence of democracy. Let us take the issue of Senator Natasha, for instance. This is an allegation. An allegation is an allegation. The principle underpinning the decision of courts in Nigeria as enshrined in the Constitution is that whoever alleges should prove beyond reasonable doubt. And now, what is expected as an institution that thrives on transparency, it should provide a platform where both parties will come and prove their case. But what is happening from being suspended to, I'm not saying that there should be no rules governing behavior. But again, when there are rules governing behavior, and I know that that rule is going to guard me and that rule will not save me and protect me, then I'll become a rebel that will rebel against the system. We've seen it in the past. There was, I think, was it last National Assembly before this? The Nigerians were saying, we want to know how much our senators and House of Reps members are making. And a senator then wanted to divulge those very particular facts. Why should it be a secret in the first place if it is transparently done and that Nigerians know how much their senators and House of Reps members are earning? Because the question there was what they are contributing to the sustenance of democracy, to protecting their well-being. Is it commensurable with what they are being paid and the allowances they are enjoying in Abuja? And a lot of questions were asked. Freedom of Information Act was relied on. A lot of letters were sent to the National Assembly, and there were no responses. And then that equally led to protests on online platform. So why is it that anytime somebody from within National Assembly wanted to do something radical that will change the course of history, that person is clamped down, either the person is removed as a principal officer or the person is suspended? You will agree with me that most of the suspensions that have happened in National Assembly is not because the person acted out of line, but because the person intend to divulge the secret of the National Assembly that is considered sacrosanct, and then the person is punished. How do you do that? If you are for transparency and if you are for accountability, then it must start from the institution itself. Secondly, I understand the fact that there are issues that cannot be discussed in the public glare to the extent that it pertains to national security or it will undermine the outcome of whatever it is being discussed. For instance, the issue of security. Now, I'm happy the senator mentioned, unfortunately for me today, each time the senator is making a point, I don't, the audio usually dimmed. I only hear the representative speaking most of the time, but I picked something that he talked about, which is a national conference on security. Now, I want to ask, beyond the national conference, what has happened? Because after the conference, there must be a resolution, and the resolution becomes the compass that will guide actions going forward for all the stakeholders that are involved. And it requires that these very particular resolutions are turned into a KPIs, which is key performance indicators, that is used to measure progress as we go forward. And whoever needed to be questioned will be questioned. Whoever needed to be invited will be invited. Who needed to be commended, commended. And those that needed to be removed or sanctioned. Now, all of this, which has happened after the conference, you see, one of the fundamental challenges that we have across all the arms of government is that we weaponize our challenges to the extent that we use it as a justification to remove resources from the coffers, and then we make people to believe that we're on top of the situation, and we gather and we make speeches and we return back to our homes and our problems are still intact. The conference has not stopped attack in Benue State, where it's coming from. It has not stopped attack in Plateau State. It has not stopped in Zamfara. Neither has it stopped Katsina. So now there is a correlation between actions and outcome. So if ordinarily the conference had impact, by now we should have a drop in terms of attacks that are happening across all of these very particular domains I've mentioned. But the attacks are still going on. People are being kidnapped on a daily basis. Ransom are being paid. You see people crying over the television or on Facebook, pleading for people to contribute money for them. These are people that feel that they've been betrayed by a nation that they call their own and has not done anything to protect them. So when we're talking, we should correlate action and outcome and the impact those actions are making. So it's not as if somebody is making up allegations, but the protests are real. The people are protesting. If the real work is being done, the people will not protest. Even if they are protesting, it will be in solidarity, it will be in support, and that would have led to honoring most of the members. I bet you majority of the members from these constituencies may not return in 2027, majority of them. So the protest is not as if the people are angry because some persons are in Abuja. There are people that if you give them the ticket to contest, they will not contest. All they want to see is peace so that they can go about their normal businesses. So protest in a democracy is the only legitimate means through which people express their grievances to the extent that they felt impacted negatively by happenings around their area. So it's not because one politician wants to contest the election and then the person is protesting against the incumbent just to undermine the incumbent. I bet you people will not fall for that. We've seen instances where people confer chieftaincy titles on their representatives for doing a very wonderful job. So it's not always the case that people are protesting because they lack what to do. No. In the case of Nigeria, people are protesting because they have genuine reason to protest. And lastly, I expected that with the increasing rate of taxation in this country, in taxes, increasing rate of energy cost, increasing rate of cost of communication in terms of data and voice communication in an economy that is struggling, I believe that by now the National Assembly ought to have weighed in to say, why is it that additional cost and burden are being imposed on the people of Nigeria? And all we are hearing is quiet. Nobody is saying anything. And Nigerians, they deserve to know. And that is why you see that the only means possible is online, and you find people protesting online. So we should look at these issues dispassionately. We're not here to undermine anybody or to cast anybody in a gap that does not befit that person. But again, Nigeria is our country. It's either we salvage it or we perish in it altogether.
To respond to that, the National Assembly not responding to some of these issues. I think what makes news in social media particularly is bad news. Otherwise, on the floor, every day, in the last couple of years, the issues of insecurity are mentioned. And it's one of the responsibilities, of representatives, parliamentarians, to bring these issues up to the attention of the executive by way of motions. Every day on the floor. I'm chairman of Rules and Business. So nobody can say that we are not talking about them, that we're not drawing the attention of the executive to them. We are. The challenge here is that we are living in a different time. This was not the 70s when the challenges of insecurity hasn't gotten to this level. And we are living in a worldwide insecure environment. If you flew on airplanes in the 70s and early 80s, you don't go through the scrutiny you go through today. So changes are taking place every day. And then you know what has happened in the Sahel, northern Nigeria, Africa, and its impact on the west coast of Africa. So it's a global thing, an African thing that we are grappling with. And I'm not saying that we should allow it to continue, but to say that nothing is changing and we are doing nothing is not right.
But how do you track? How do you track implementation of resolutions of the House? Yes, but you make the laws, you do the resolutions beyond, because if it is not implemented, it becomes ceremonial.
Yes, the democracy we practice in Nigeria is presidential. We are not doing a parliamentary system. This is parliamentary, where members of the cabinet are also members of parliament. Then you have some role in implementing. Even if you are in the opposition party, you have a shadow government that is looking at all of that. But here, your resolutions could even be termed merely advisory. When I presently chair an investigative committee. When we turn in our report, it will go back to the executive. That's the type of system we run.
You can't do any other thing after that, maybe to follow up, okay, what are we doing about
what
this?
you do is oversight, and you call attention of the executive. What the executive does with it is completely the business of the executive. I'm also we've had some improvement in this Bola Tinubu's government in terms of response, because in the past, I remember in 9th Assembly, there were people who didn't confirm. They still continued in office to the end of their tenures. There were people that were confirmed, they never got into office. Those kind of things happen. So it's not our business, really. I'll give you an example. There is this audit bill. The country currently runs on the audit ordinance of 1956. The House of Representatives today has passed the bill for the audit bill 2025, I would say now. We are awaiting concurrence from the Senate. Once that is done, we're also looking forward to audit tribunal. You know, in the U.S., for instance, the Public Accounts Committee of the House, of the Parliament, they have that quasi-judicial powers. So if they say, for instance, that the head of an MDA has misappropriated funds or fraud or something, and that money should be returned, or the person can go to jail, they can even pronounce a jail sentence. But here it's not so. When the Public Accounts Committee here looks at the Auditor General's annual report and then confirms it or makes a pronouncement, it goes back to the executive. So people's thinking is that when you come up with these reports, act on them, do something on them. We don't execute. It's not our role. It's the role of the executive. And so far, Parliament has done what it should do.
All right. Many thanks, Representative Iwaive.
About the proposed National Security Summit that Prof alluded to. He spoke as if the conference has taken place and the results are not being implemented. No.
But there has been a summit.
That was in the 9th Assembly.
Okay. That is not us. I co-sponsored the motion with Senator Jim Ibrahim that canvassed for the convocation of a National Security Summit, having taken a stock of the preponderance of attacks in every part of this country, and having also invited security chiefs to the plenary to come and address us on the efforts being made. In the view of the press, Nigerians still seem to feel that we are not doing enough in terms of oversighting the executive to see to it that the country is safe. So we came with this idea of convening a National Security Summit for the whole country through their representatives outside of the chambers to sit with us and the service chiefs so that we can collectively discuss the preponderance of security breaches that this country is going through. That has not happened yet. So the probe needs to be guided. Secondly, this issue of Natasha scandal, you mentioned it. There is no scandal between Natasha and the Senate President. What my colleague, my dear sister in North Central is doing is crude politics to smear someone because she lost her committee. I am a member of the Ethics and Privileges Committee that gave the district senator the privilege to come forward and state her case. She ran away.
Many thanks,
She
Senator
prefers to
Zam.
come to the press. So Nigerians are being misled. Now that I have this opportunity, let me say
We didn't want to dabble into this.
Somebody mentions scandal.
We didn't want to double it. He mentioned in passing.
And I want him to be corrected.
We don't want to double
I want him to know
into
that she was given the freedom to come and state her case. She refused.
All right, the matter is in court, of course. I'm sure that we'll get solutions to all of these issues and all the sides will be heard. We need to pause at this point. When we get back after the break, the conversation continues. Please remain tuned. Many thanks for remaining tuned. It's still Good Morning Nigeria, live on the network service of the NTA. And our guests are still very much with us. And you still have an opportunity to send us questions, comments, and observations as regards the topic. We have some messages already. We'll read them shortly. But let's quickly get to Senator Zam now as we continue the conversation. You've spoken, you and Representative Wyvey have spoken glowingly about the performance of the 10th National Assembly. Some people will say, well, it has not been so productive, considering the fact that about 15 senators have not even sponsored a single bill, and in the House of Reps, over 100 have not, done anything, in terms of sponsoring bills. But speak to us about what the National Assembly is doing in terms of reduction of the cost of governance. What has it done in the last 2 years? And what do you think it would do? Because, I mean, that's like a major issue at this point. Because each time you listen to leaders talk, they talk about Nigerians tightening their belts and all of that because of the present economic realities. But we don't see that happening at the top. So what is the National Assembly doing in that regard?
Well, that may not be the responsibility of the National Assembly per se. It's, again, zero down to the issue of what the Constitution provides. The Constitution, for example, says every state of the Federation should be represented in the Federal Executive Council. And Mr. President's hands are tied. He can't appoint less than the number required by the Constitution. So it starts with the nature and character of the Constitution we have in place. That's number one. Number two, it also had to do with the policy trust of the executive, the head of the executive branch of government. For us, we can only approve nominations for appointments as determined and decided by Mr. President. So if there are leakages, for example, that we know, we can block it through oversight, through practical visits and review of the
Have we seen that
process.
happen in the last 2 years?
So, yes. I cannot lay my hands on any specific case. But as I said, it has to do with the philosophy of the government of the day. For us, we can only oversight what is reported to us. If Nigerians feel that the government is over-bloated, then issues should be presented to us and we'll deal with it. But I don't think this government is flamboyant in a way as to draw such outcry as presented by you, except you have any specific case to present, and then we'll deal with it here. For now, I'm not aware of any such outcry. I think this president is being very, very economical with the resources of this country, and I'm not aware of any such case. So you may throw more light.
All right. Let me comment quickly. You mentioned about 100 members of the House not sponsoring any bill. That is not true.
So how many haven't?
At the end of the first session, it was just 15 that hadn't any bill. At the end of the first session. Now we've just finished the second session. So I believe that by the time other paper comes out with the report later today, because today is our anniversary, the report will be coming out today. There will be less than 10. That's why we have over 2,000 bills. So not 100. Our members are very active. They are very productive. And I can tell you that maybe in the neighborhood of 3-4 when it eventually comes out.
Okay.
Thank you. I was also going to say that a country with over 2,050,000 people, you can never govern it effectively with a small cabinet. It's really impossible. Issues keep arising that require attention. You understand? So what matters is not necessarily about the size of government. It's about prudent management of available resources. And I cannot see where we have any established case of any leakage that has been ignored by the National Assembly.
All right.
Yeah.
All right. So then we will expect the National Assembly to establish, because it's not established. We are not going to establish it.
No, the citizens too have a role to play,
but
especially the media.
Let me get to Dr. Abdurrahman Abu Hamisu. Now, many Nigerians, Doc, complain of a disconnect between the legislature and their constituents. So would you say that this is more of a structural issue or a failure of political will?
Well, first of all, let me clarify something. I was trying to clarify when the representative spoke. I am not saying that the House or the Senate is not doing anything. I'm not saying that they are not mentioning the issues on the floor of the Senate or on the floor of the House of Reps. What I'm saying is that we could go beyond mentioning to concrete actions. For instance, is it out of place if an institution is not performing, that the head of that institution should be recommended for removal? If the person is found to be corrupt, can National Assembly propose that? Because actions are end-to-end. If you do a part and you did not complete it, then it becomes ineffective, and people will complain. I think National Assembly has the right to even deny appropriation to agencies that are found to be corrupt, and the leadership is not willing to take the leaders of those institutions out. So there are a lot of things that they can do beyond mention of names. I think this is my point, that beyond the conference, what did we do to follow up? These are the questions I'm asking. I'm not saying that you people are not doing anything or you are not mentioning the issues. No. Beyond the mentioning, there are concrete steps and actions that need to be taken. You see, there is always a disconnect between the constituents, between the constituencies of the senators and the House of Reps members and the people. And that can be traced to so many things. First is
have lost connection with.
Perhaps we just take the messages that we have at this time.
Of course, we'll look at the messages that we have so far. I'll just read out a few. This one here says, we're not only requesting they do the necessary by making good laws that can increase Nigeria's general productivity. Okay, well, that message is incomplete. John Paul, you can complete that. That's all the way from Lagos. This says it's very appalling that the National Assembly does not follow its own guideline on how its leadership emerges when it has been empowered by the Constitution to do so. Another one here, this one is from Ebonyi. Godwin is the name. It says, thanks to NTA for this opportunity. The most important to me right now requiring expeditious legislation is the electoral law. I agree there has been some improvement. These are too incremental, given that most of our challenges stems from there. Is there nothing the 10th Assembly can do legislatively to settle the issue of insecurity, the impunity of the authorities, and the issues against the poor? Well, I guess that's what he's trying to say here. This one says, good morning, presenters. Nice having Senator Titus Zam in the studio. Very eloquent and vocal on the floor of the Senate. My question is about the efforts of the National Assembly in seeing to it that the outstanding NPower stipend is paid. Shaibu Haruna Musa from Benue State. Could the Senator and the Rep in the House explain the issue of the ministries and agencies' mandate vis-a-vis the domiciliation of their constituency and capital projects, by extension the monitoring of the execution, like a project on electrification domiciled in the Ministry of Health, for example? What are the most impactful bills and motions passed in the last 2 years? How have they influenced governance and national development? That's coming from Olakunle. And I'll just take the last one here. This one is from Honorable Lord Danzi Katsen from Taraba State, Wukari local government area. It says, Benue and Taraba states are agricultural hubs of our great nation. What is the 10th National Assembly doing to curb the incessant attacks by the headers on farmers in these states? Most especially National Assembly members from Benue and Taraba states. What are they doing to avert the ugly situation that is hampering agricultural productivity?
All right, I have quite a number of my own here. And Akeju Olagbaju says, Mr. President delivered one of the best addresses of all time at the National Assembly. So the choice of that venue isn't to capture the elitist minds, but as representatives of people spread the message to all parts of the country. I hope the honorable members and senators would carry that responsibility. And then another says the government needs to listen to the people. You imagine a bag of urea fertilizer sold above 35,000 naira. And according to Engineer Ibrahim Oladeji, what are you doing on full implementation of local government autonomy? That's a direct question. Good morning, Nigeria. My comment about the discourse is that 10th National Assembly has not done enough. Their oversight is very poor. That's from Moses from Abuja. And another one, I need the legislators on set to clarify the perception Nigerians have that they are the ones in charge of constituency projects as against the MDAs. What determines the amount of constituency projects allocated to a constituency, he asks. And finally, to the Chairman House Committee on Rules and Business, why are bills from members kept for too long, expecting colleagues to come and lobby before the bills are gazetted for reading, even with the importance of the bill to the people the members represent? I think we could start from there.
I think I should. One thing we must appreciate with the House is that we are 360. 360 is not too much for a country of over 200 million. And then if you compare with other democracies, you'll find that our number is just it. You know, it's okay. What happens in this 10th assembly, the number we've even achieved, 2,239 first reading, it has never happened in the history of the National Assembly. And that tells you that this Committee on Rules and Business that I heard, we listen to everybody and we try to fast track what they do. As soon as your bill comes, the first thing we do is to go through scrutiny to be sure that you are not reinventing the wheel. There's a law already on that. Why do you want to, you know? And then is it in conflict with the Constitution? We do all those scrutiny. Then we look at the grammar and the legal
Construction.
Now, by the time we finish all of that, we're now going to gazetting. Then before, when it's gazetted, we give it a number, then we now list it for first reading. And I can say authoritatively that at this moment, midterm, 97, 98% of everyone who has proposed the first reading bill has been read on the floor. I ensure that that is done. The 2-3% that has not done so will be those that submitted a week or two ago. And you had the Salah and then the June 12 holidays, so it's nobody's fault for those ones.
All right, Senator.
And then for second reading, because we have such a huge number, 2,000 something, how many can you list in a legislative day? You see Tuesdays, Wednesdays, and Thursdays for plenary. Are you going to list 100 a day? No, it's 5, 6 at the maximum, because you need to debate them. Second reading is where you look at the merits and the demerits of a bill. It's not like the first reading when you read only the title for people, the members to go and look at it. Now you debate it. So you can't take more than a certain number. So as we speak, we have about 1,000 bills waiting for second reading. I won't list 1,000 tomorrow morning. I will list 5 or 6. And then it has to be members who indicate their interest to go to the second stage. Because when you list some members, so I'm not ready to debate yet. You know,
You need to do more research.
I want to research on this thing more. I want to prepare my lead debate, so take me off it. So you wait for those who indicate interest. And then when you finish second reading, it's referred to a committee. And that committee, some committees now has 30, 40 referrals. And it involves public hearing, a lot of expenditure, a lot of time. So lawmaking is not a 100-meter dash that somebody would expect. And I know many of our new members, particularly young ones, they expect that by now they should have made like 50 bills gone through. It's not that fast. We have to be thorough. And additionally, for those who come from state assemblies, we have challenges with them. Most of the state assemblies in Nigeria are 30, maximum 40 persons, except for Kano, that is over 40. Now, when you are a member of such a parliament, you will speak every day. But when you are in a parliament of 360, get ready. Some days, some weeks, you will not speak. That's a true situation.
All right.
Get ready for it.
Let's look at the constituency project issue. Perhaps you will address that. Raised by.
I'm reading more. Let me start with the issue of agriculture being the mainstay of.
We don't have a lot of time, so.
Okay. Let me speak a little to this issue of insecurity. I want to say here that North Central, and in particular Benue State, where I come from, and to be specific, my local government of origin, which is Gwe West, as I speak to you, is under siege. You know, and I want to commend Mr. President for the modest efforts he has made. What's lacking is complementarity from the subnational units, the states. When you have all the paraphernalia of security services under your control as the state governor, and you have the security vote to use to support these agencies to carry out their function, you're not doing it. You definitely don't expect them to do their best. So you people need to draw some light on the subnational unit to see how they are complementing the effort of the federal government in dealing with the security situation in the various states of the federal.
All right, many thanks, Senator. We do not have time. Looks like we're going to have a part 2 of this conversation. But let's get to Dr. Hamisu now to round up the conversation. What would you expect the National Assembly to focus on in the next 2 years? What are the key priorities you think should be of interest to the National Assembly?
Education, security, skills development, power supply, infrastructure, and above all, the economy. And I expect the senators and House of Reps members to do more. Everybody have their own styles, but it is not enough to raise issues without having to address them. I think from the feedback you've gotten from the participant, I need not say more, because there are pertinent questions that people feel they've not addressed, and some Nigerians that are watching have decided to direct these questions to them. I think it's a good feedback. I think it reinforces all that I've said. We are doing this because we want Nigeria to be great, and great Nigeria will be. It will outlive us, and Nigeria shall be great.
Needs to address the constituency project issue. Yeah. 1 minute, please.
Yeah. You know, the constituency projects are not domiciled in the National Assembly. This is an executive function. What the National Assembly does is to indicate areas of their interest in terms of projects and programs. If, for example, I want a bridge done in my constituency, I need to direct, okay, I have a ceiling of 2 billion, for example, now. I need to indicate the location within my constituency where this bridge will be constructed. Who does it is not my business. It's purely an executive responsibility. So I don't know the hula baloo about. What's about constituency project? We don't control the resources in the National Assembly. We only indicate our areas of interest. You have education related project at schools, you go to the relevant ministry. You understand? So I don't know what really is the problem there.
All right, your final word. You want to add to it?
Yeah, I want to speak to the Nigerian people to try to come to terms with what Parliament is all about. We must do our best to encourage our parliamentarians. What we are doing currently, in the US, for instance, turnover is about 8%. In Nigeria, is over 80% every electoral cycle. We must stop this so that we don't lose experienced and trained parliamentarians that can do a better job.
All right, many thanks, Representative Ejirogene Francis Waive, Chairman, House of Representatives Committee on Roads and Business, and member representing Nugeli North and South Udu Federal Constituency in Delta State. Many thanks for being our guest. We do sincerely appreciate you. Of course, like to also appreciate distinguished Senator Titus Zam, Chairman, Senate Committee on North Central Development Commission, and immediate past Chairman, Senate Committee on Rules and Business, representing Benue Northwest Senatorial District. It was a pleasure to have you.
Thank you, thank you.
Thank you very much. And also Dr. Abdurrahman Abu Hamisu, political scientist and public affairs analyst, who joined us via Zoom. Thank you so much for your insights. We appreciate you. All right, so that's our package on Good Morning Nigeria this Friday. Many thanks for watching. Live locked on the NTA and have a swell weekend.
Right, and I'm Victor Azu. Thank you very much for watching. Thank God it's Friday.